We interrupt this program for the July edition of Ham Radio Q&A Live. I'm Michael, KB9VBR.
Do not adjust your radio. I am Joe, KD9CGX.
And for the next 60 minutes, there goes my phone.
Oh, Jesus, we control the horizontal and we control the vertical, I guess.
Exactly. As soon as I say something, I get a weird phone number popping up in front of me. I'm like, oh, right now? Really?
They're concerned about your car's extended warranty.
Right. That is the Twilight Zone. Oh, boy.
Oh,
and well, we how extended my car was right now.
Maybe I could get that warranty on my son's truck.
I wouldn't warranty anything on that thing. Wow. I saw that the other day. At least he took the topper off.
Yes, it's in the backyard, unfortunately. So
it should be in the junkyard.
Hey, that's the best topper $40 can buy.
You paid for that, really?
Unfortunately.
You know what? I'm not even shocked. $40, okay.
$40. Okay. Yeah, $40.
So, anyways, I'm Joe, KD9CGX, and this is not the Twilight Zone. Nor is it the Home Shopping Network.
It's Ham Radio Q&A, and it's July 1st, 2021.
Happy
Canada. Happy Canada Day.
So is this weekend must be the Canada Day contest, right?
I think okay. I think so. I didn't look up to see. I know 13 colonies started today.
And 13 colonies this week too.
Yeah.
So it's always a summer of fun. You have 13 colonies. Then you have Indianapolis Motor Speedway Special Event Station. And then, of course, September we have Route 66. So all your special event stations coming up.
A lot of special events. And I haven't started working in any of the 13 colonies yet.
Have you ever gotten all 13?
Last year I got all 13, and the William Penn, and the only one I did not get was the British station. So.
Okay. So you got 14 out of the 13 colonies.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's 15. Yeah, so not quite a clean sweep, but.
I think you got them all like in 1 or 2 days, didn't you? You were just getting home and just banging them out.
I think I got about 60% of them all within the first couple days, and then the stragglers took a little bit longer, and there was a few of them that were very difficult, and I had to be creative. I think a couple of them I snagged on FT8 and one of them FT4, and it was a lot of watching the spots. You know, you watch the spotting page, and another one comes up, and you try to break that pile up, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I got them. I think I got them with a couple days to spare. But
okay. See, because that runs all week. I think it's not just over the holiday; it runs through the entire week, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Well, that's good. So I've had this trap vertical for 3 years now. I bought it at a ham fest on a whim. I wasn't going to buy an antenna there, but someone had this real nice 80 through 10 meter Cushcraft AP8, which is an older antenna, but it was in really good condition. The guy had cleaned it up and everything, and he had all the documentation. And he said $80, and I said, I have $80 in my pocket. What a coincidence!
Hey,
so it's been sitting, outside. I had it up. I've never tuned it though. So this week I had some scrap wire. And I've got some time now. I kind of seem like things are kind of slowing down for a couple of days. I'm going to make radios. So I made at least one radio for 80, 40, and 20. And then I started tuning it. I kind of got it tuned. It's okay. But it's a trap vertical. And that's really interesting. So you start tuning it at the bottom where 10 meters is. And if you know anything about traps, they're like a bandpass filter. And as the frequency goes down, well, then, you use more and more of the antenna. So 80 meters and 40 meters are at the top. But unfortunately, in order to tune it, I have it spread out over 3 sawhorses and a ladder. It's getting close to 30 feet tall. And I start to put it up, and I go, now I'm starting to get a little bit close to the power lines. I didn't know I was going to get this close.
Oh.
Maybe we time to move it.
Can you tune it horizontally? Because a lot of times the antenna's SWR won't change if it's horizontal versus vertical.
So I would assume you could. It gives you measurements actually. So it gives you specific measuring points on the vertical,
Mm-hmm.
from point A to point B, and tells you how long it should be for each section. Especially with like 80 and 40 meters, it'll give you specific different lengths for phone, center of the band, and for CW. So I'm kind of aiming for center of it, and then hopefully, if I'm off a little bit, it'll still be within the band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas, for 10 meters, it's pretty much one length, and you're covered for like 12 through 10.
Yep.
So, but anyway, so that's probably what I'm working on this weekend. Finish that up.
Okay.
And if I get that going and working well, then maybe I'll hunt some colonies.
Well, this weekend I'll be. I gotta head south down to the greater Milwaukee area. My mother-in-law's condo has been sold now, so this will be the last time we can kind of all gather in it at beautiful Lake Pewaukee. So we're going to watch the fireworks this weekend from it. Have a big extended family kind of celebration, and then maybe who knows? Maybe I'll bring the radio down and I'll work condo portable on the 4th of July. See if I can.
Is that anything like hammock portable?
It could be, except with less bugs.
Well, I mean, you're still outside. I can't.
Yeah. So,
and with the amount of rain we had in the past week, I'm pretty sure the bugs are going to be bad.
Oh, I'm sure they are. So.
Yeah.
Hey, we got
whose field day got rained out this year?
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But everybody, we're going to talk about field day in a few minutes. So if you got field day stories to share, leave them in the chat, and we'll all kind of share our experiences from field day. But I just want to kind of acknowledge a few people checking in. Let's see, we got Jason KG6 TOP. He was one of the first on there. Buddy Mike from across the river. Hey Mike. And Bruce, he's a regular from Ohio. We got Jackson down in Mosinee. So thanks for joining us.
That's where we were this weekend, Mosinee.
Yeah, that's where And Jason, well, he's wondering what part of Northwest Ohio Bruce is from. And Christiana, thanks for the super chat, and she's asking, do you make a 6 meter, 2 meter, and 440 J-pole? I do not make a tri-band. The 6 meter antenna as it stands on its own is 13 feet tall. So to add those extra elements would make for it'd certainly be a Frank antenna.
Yeah, and if you look at it, so the antenna is resonant between 50 and 54 megahertz. It's actually third harmonic is going to be like in the 150 range, almost 160. So it's going to be it overshoots the 2 meter band. That's unfortunately. There are some antennas out there that'll do all three, but usually those are they're traps or something that that are high pass bands like we were just talking about. But with a J-pole, it's not feasible to do it that way. Whereas between 144 megahertz and 440 megahertz, well, that's a third harmonic, and that'll actually work. But now it's 6.2 and 440. So
yeah. And but the 6 meter antenna it's a screamer. It puts out a good signal. I've used it both on sideband and FM. I've talked to, I think it was last year I had it set up. I was Baltimore on 100 watts, so on sideband, and out to Nebraska when the band is open. So it's a fun antenna.
Yep, it's always good to have one of those. You get a little height under it, 15, 20 feet, and it's you'll be working. When the band opens, you'll work anyone.
That's right. So let's see. My wife's watching from the road, so hopefully she won't be watering the plants tonight.
I hope she says she's watching the road. She's not driving.
Yeah. Hello from Fond du Lac, Wally. Thanks for joining us. Jackson wants to know if any nets they can check into on Thursdays.
Thursday nights, no, not locally.
No, there's not. Most of
No.
them are Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The WeCom system has a Thursday net on the fourth Thursday of the month. If I don't think, unless you got a mobile or a base station, well, a base station, you'll hit the Irma or Coloma. You'll hit Irma from Mosinee. So
I
that would,
think you can hit Coloma from Mosinee too, depending on
yeah,
where you're
yeah.
at. Everyone else outside of Central Wisconsin has no idea what we're talking about. But you
that's
can
it for,
either one. And I think the third Thursday of the month on WeCom is Saturn. Saturn, you had a net on, I believe.
okay.
I would double check that, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Bill, oops, I missed it here. Bill, KI5 IFX, first time tuning in from beautiful Houston. So bet you it's nice and warm down there.
Yeah. My wife's been to Houston quite a few times for work, so if she goes down there, usually she comes back with crazy stories. So.
And then finally we got Dean. Oh, the Jacks again. Yeah, we got Dean from Manitowoc, AC9UL. So, and good deal. Yeah, Jacks. Yeah, 25 watts basis. You'll get into Irma with 25 watts on a base antenna.
No problem.
So, good deal. So, all right. Let's talk about. We got some. Kind of move into a question here, and then we'll do some field day in a couple minutes.
All right.
But I got a really good question. Actually, I got a couple really good ones. But David, one of our patrons over on Patreon, he was curious about our thoughts on naming repeaters in your radio. I find many radios have limited character lengths, so I always have to be creative. Currently, I do a station name dash location. I like to hear what others do. So, and I know that's always a challenge for me, kind of trying to come up with names that are short and descriptive for the repeater channels. And I think what I've kind of done is I usually start out with the local machines, the ones that you're most familiar with, and I'll just put their call signs in as the the channel name. And then as I kind of move out from there, area machines, usually I'll name it by the town or the city, because there's only maybe one or two repeaters in that town. And then as you get further out from that, then all things get a little bit more difficult, because you might end up in a bigger city, and you got to try to figure out how to name those repeaters or not. So it might be a combination of you got a photobomb there.
Yeah. Someone was sneaking into the picture. Someone's hungry, I think. Someone else left the door upstairs open, and this is how.
Yeah.
So maybe the radio off my desk. Thanks, Kat.
Of course.
Continue with your story. I got to take care of this.
Yeah. So maybe three characters for the town or city name, and then a couple digits for just sort of differentiate between the two repeaters. And then since my radio is an FTM 400, I might put an F afterwards, in there, so I know it's a fusion repeater or not. So I can toggle the digital or the analog modes. So, and if anybody else has got any ideas on how they like to name their channels, I'd love to hear them in the chat. So yeah, leave a chat down below while we're. We'll kind of. We don't want to look at Joe.
Hey, I'm back.
Oh, there you go.
Just took a couple seconds here. Live television, guys. This is as real as it gets. Reality television here.
Yep. So yeah, and D3 Jake says in Minneapolis and the area around it has a pile of 2 meter and 440 repeaters, and I know we run into the same thing. If I'm going down to Milwaukee or Madison, you end up with a half a dozen, or a dozen different repeaters, and you got to try to figure out descriptive ways to sort of name all of those.
Right.
So.
Right. So a good example of this is I started working on a new code plug for a radio I just got for Kenwood. And it's a commercial radio specifically for Aries racing stuff. So not only do I have to go through and put in repeaters in our county and then the adjacent counties, then I have to put in the WeCom system, the linked repeater system that we talked about. That's specifically made for Aries racing. But then I also have to go through and put all the public service frequencies in there as well. So, I mean, the public service frequencies, you kind of sort of have specific names for those as they're issued from the state. But there's going to be 30, 40 repeaters in there by the time I'm done. And that does get a little interesting. And to make matters more complicated, it's a P25 radio. So Central Wisconsin is lucky enough to have 3 amateur repeaters that are all dual mode analog P25. But if you've ever programmed a P25 radio, you have 2 separate channel personalities, almost, the analog one and the digital one, because sometimes you'll be working analog on that repeater as well. So that means that those repeaters actually have 2 separate channels. So it really does get crazy. But whatever works best for you, may not work best for the next guy. That's the unfortunate part. A good example is the FT2DR by Yaesu. It's a great radio, but it does not show the label of the channel on the main screen. Oh, it will let you go to one VFO, but no one uses it just one VFO mode. You use it in 2V with both on the screen. So you almost got to memorize the frequency. So whatever works best for you. I kind of sort of do a cross between using the call signs. I use the call signs for the local ones that I know very well. Then outside of the local area, it's usually the city name in the last couple digits. For example, there's a town nearby called Tomahawk, and their frequency is 14543.
43, 430.
So I have Tomahawk, and I shorten Tomahawk like TMHWK or something, 43, and then I have an A or a D after it for analog or digital. I know what it is. I may hand it to Michael and say, "Here, get on the Tomahawk machine," and he'd be like,
what the heck is that?
Whatever works best for you. Whatever way you do it's not going to work for everyone, unfortunately. That's just the kicker of it. But whatever works best for you. And if you have a commercial radio or a DMR radio that has zones, split those up into zones or different banks or something. And have some sort of organization is the best way you can do it.
Yeah, that's what I've done with the DMR radios is zones by region. So you've got the north central Wisconsin, you've got the southeast Wisconsin, and so you can flip to the zone, and then you only have to page through those particular channels within the zone. It makes kind of finding a repeater a lot easier with your handheld. With my mobile radio, since you got like 500 channels to work with, I will sort of block them into say like groups of 50 or something like that for regions. So it's easy to add a channel within a region, and then channels within particular geographic areas are sort of all kind of lumped together.
I usually do it. So if I'm using a commercial radio that has we have like the rotary knob on top, and you go like this one here, Kenwood. Commercial radio. The rotary selector is 1 through 16. So I'll put 16 channels in a zone at most.
Yeah.
And then you can just flip to which zone you want, and then you can swing it to whatever channel. And I think that works best, especially if you have a radio that you're going to use for both amateur and Aries racy stuff. If you just have a radio that you're going to use locally and you never leave town or you never leave the county, you can put them in however you want. If you're a traveler, if you're a truck driver, all bets are off.
That's the problem. If you're over the road,
do what works best for you. I go up a lot up north, 3 hours away, and I will have a separate zone just set up for the repeaters up there. And then it's a separate scan list too, so I can just switch the scan list. And I'm sitting at the lake, at the cabin. I have a radio on. I can have it in scan and listen to the repeaters up there.
Yeah.
And whatever works best for you. It really is. Your mileage may vary.
That's absolutely. TNCT says, is Yaesu groups the same as zones? And yes, they are. The groups, you find that on the FT3DR, and I think the FTM 300 has the groups capability. That allows you to, it's like zones or banks, banks on a scanner. So you can segregate channels into particular, groups or zones or banks. To make finding them easier, scanning them easier. So, say I've with my FT3, I've got all of the local stuff in one group, so I can run through the scan. So I'm only listening to 15 channels instead of 100 channels.
Mm-hmm. And if you are a person who has the ability, you may have more than one radio. Or like me, you have like a half dozen sitting on the desk. It's one of those things. You have a radio for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I don't know. 615 had a good question. And that's what is P25?
What is?
So you don't know what P25 is? Oh, okay.
I'm trying to find the question here.
Scroll right up above PNCT.
Oh, what P25 radio is it?
Oh, what P25 radio is? Okay, this is a 5210.
Actually, I think I got the same. I got the same one.
I know, because you gave me the programming channel.
I've had this one for years. You just got yours last week.
Right. Oh, I got mine 2 days ago. So, I mean, P25, if people who don't know, is EPCO P25 is a digital mode. It's actually very similar to Fusion in terms of the codec, but it is an open source mode that is used primarily by public service and police, fire, sheriff, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So your major commercial radio companies will sell radios with that. So it's not like Fusion in terms or D-Star where you join talk groups on different repeaters and you have reflectors and stuff like that. It's not quite like that, but it does give you that clearer digital audio. It allows for trunking. It allows for because there's different time slots. You can have 2 different time slots on the same frequency at the same time with trunking and everything else. So it's mainly for public service. You don't see a lot of it in the amateur realm. So if you buy a repeater for amateur use, it's probably going to be a commercial repeater that you tune down for that.
Yeah.
But the good thing about that is if you do have a radio and you are in a organization such as Aries Races where those individuals may be called upon to assist, but then you can put those frequencies in and you can operate. The problem is that most of our, at least our law enforcement, use encryption, and they're not going to give us the keys for the encryption. So, but it is what it is. It's just from time to time. So that's why, me and Michael, because we do Aries and Races, we have those P25 radios, and we have several amateur repeaters in the area like that. But your mileage may vary. Your local law enforcement may use still analog. They may use Moto Turbo. They may use something else. Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
P25 seems to be since 9/11 seems to be kind of sort of the de facto LEO format.
Digital standard, yeah. In fact, if Aries Races is a concern for you, I would look at getting a commercial capable radio, because especially if you are attached to your emergency manager, they may have you go on to a non-amateur frequency sometimes, and it's good to have a commercial quality radio in those cases. If you need to be
a radio you can trust. Not
exactly.
about Bang. Not about Bang. But by the way, your video is a Baofeng SHTF radio showed up on my feed today. We proved that a long time ago. It ain't. And I'm not trying to say, okay, I am knocking about Baofeng, right? But it's just not a radio that I would want to be in a serious situation with. These are rugged radios, not okay. Rugged radios is something different. This is a very sturdy radio. This is built to commercial standards. This can be dropped, can be get spilled on, and it's probably going to still work. Or you can repair it. I will say that. I get a new faceplate for this and it busts up. And that's a good thing. I feel confident going into a situation that this will work properly.
Yep.
A ball bag, no. I can't. It's hard enough to program a ball bang, and then if I got to change something on the fly, that's not.
Well, yeah. Unfortunately, you're not going to change something on the fly with one of these either. But
yeah, but on my go bag always has a laptop. It always had a programming cable for whatever radio I have, so I can change it.
There you go.
A good example is when we go up north with the dog sled races. Even though I have 6 frequencies programmed in, I still have a laptop and a programming cable in case something happens and we got to change something on the fly. So.
Yep. Exactly. So we got a couple questions here. Let's see. And Bruce is asking, I recently purchased a Wolf River coil and the dual collar kit. I can usually tune the 20 meters pretty well, but the 40 meters seems to be tunable some days and not others. And then he's also, I'm using the provided 3 radios as well, and it's generally in the same spot in my yard. Any suggestions? So to remove the second collar. It is a really good question. I know I've always had more trouble tuning 20 meters than 40 because it's just the tuning knob is just a lot narrower, when to try to hone in on that 20 meter frequency in the 41. I don't think the dual collar should be causing you grief. I know at home in the wintertime, I run one of the Wolf River coils with the dual collar, and typically I don't have an issue with that. Maybe you don't say how long your whip is, but maybe if you can make your whip longer for 40 meters, that might help a little bit.
Right. A longer antenna or a longer whip is going to lower your Q. So these base loaded coil verticals, as your frequency gets lower, the Q goes higher, and your what you see is a very narrow pass band of, where your SWR is low and where resonance is. You'll never find a radio or never find an antenna that covers a full 80 meter band. It's always kind of sort of a compromise. So if you lengthen your antenna, that's going to reduce the Q a little bit in that coil, make it a little bit easier to tune. The other thing too is with those collars, they do twist. Because there's one contact point down there, and if it is really fussy, you can turn that collar when you get close, and you may find some results there as well. And of course, the other thing too is double check the length of your radials. Your radials, either you may have a radio that's not got a really good connection, or the lengths are wrong. So best thing, maybe just start with one radial. Play with the length a little bit till you find a nice good notch, and once you get that and figure out what your length is and match that with the other 2 radials.
Another thing I've found too is if the antenna's outside all the time, you might have a little bit of oxidation on the contacts. Twist the collar back and forth a few times, and you might see that a frequency you couldn't get into tune may now come in a lot better.
Yeah.
So
do they use stainless steel for the coil on that, or what do they use?
No, it's this coil stainless steel.
Okay, yeah,
I think the tab and the collar might be brass. So
yeah, they'll oxidize a little. You could try using Noalox or some other anti-oxidization compound down there as well. I don't think Wolf River Coils recommends it, but it's worth a shot. Otherwise, take a little emery cloth or some real fine sandpaper, kind of clean the spot off. So I'm gonna go one more question, and then we're gonna go into the break here. So TNCD asks, can you feed a J-pole with a 90-degree adapter and run the coax directly down the mast? Yes, you can, and that'll eliminate, because usually when I recommend people do is to create sort of, when the coax comes out, is to create a drip loop and then secure the coax to the mast to take the weight of the coax off the connector. If you're going to use a 90-degree connector, you're still going to want to secure that coax to the mast somehow to get
get that weight off the connector, because you don't really want the weight of the coax pulling down on your connector at all. And then the only other thing to consider is that sometimes those 90-degree connectors are kind of cheaply constructed.
Yeah.
So your mileage may vary on the quality of them. If you put one on and you find that your SWR has gone sky high, it's probably that 90-degree connector. It's a bad one.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to buy connectors, don't buy the cheap ones on Amazon. Spend a couple extra bucks, get the good ones. And Amphenol is a name brand that you can trust.
Yep.
But you can do it. Just remember that any connector that you add into that is gonna cause some loss. Maybe not a lot of loss. And if you only got a 20-foot run of coax going out to your antenna, that's maybe not a big deal. If you're running 50 or 100 foot, and then you put on top of that, you put a connector, 2 connectors in there, that's going to eventually start adding up. I think Michael's idea of the drip loop and using some zip ties, and anytime you take a zip tie to coax, don't put it on so tight that you deform the coax. Snug is all you need on that. And then you just zip tie it, and that takes the weight off it. The only other thing you could do is maybe an ugly balun as well, a couple wraps of that, and that is recommended. Putting a balun on those. You don't have to run it with a balun, but you can. But either way, a zip tie or even Velcro, which is also something perfectly usable, is probably better than putting a 90 in. I'll say that.
So, the 90 only gives you kind of a cleaner look, but it does have a little bit of it has issues, performance issues. So, but we're at the bottom of the hour, so I just want to take a moment and to thank our Patreons that support the channel over on Patreon. That's at patreon.com/KB9VBR antennas. Of course, we've got our continued support from our associate producers, WZ90, Paul Sweeney, Paul Westberg, Brian Liebig, and Tyler J. Thank you so much for your support. And we got a new supporter this month, William Polchuk joins us as our newest patron. So William, thank you. It's your support is appreciated, and you can help support the mission to educate and inspire our amateur radio. That's over at patreon.com/KB9VBR antennas.
For beer. Hey.
Yeah. So what do you got tonight there, Joe?
I picked the Hopsecutioner again.
Hopsecutioner.
That's what I had last time, I think. Actually.
Oh, I think you're right. I'm gonna have to go find some of that.
It's available in 16-ounce cans at the local Quick Trip, so I stopped and got 2 on the way home. I never had beer in the house for a couple weeks. I know it's scary, right?
Yeah.
This is probably the first time I've had beer in the house for 3-4 weeks.
Jeez.
I don't know what's going on.
You're just too busy.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. By the way, don't expect to see me in August. That's all I'm going to say. It's the busy season is hitting right now. So. If I make it in August, I'm not going to look good. I'm not going to have this pretty face. I'm going to say that too.
Well, we got the New Belgian. I don't know if you can see the can here. 1980 Voodoo Ranger 1985.
Ooh, so I love beautiful Voodoo Ranger.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful kind of fluorescent can here, reminiscent of my high school days.
Yeah, Voodoo Ranger makes a double imperial or a double imperial. Ooh, that's a stay-at-home beer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
that's like 2, and I'm done. So I'm done. I'm going to bed.
I found these in a mix pack. They're Hopalicious mix packs. So it's.
In case anyone hasn't figured out, me and Michael like the IPAs.
Yes.
Michael and I.
Well, and also, I'm just going to pull up here, Dan, N9BAV, old fashioned for me tonight. And hey, I've been
talk about the National Parks of the Year event with all the old fashions.
I love the old fashioned. Yeah.
Maybe we find a Patreon that donates enough. We'll tell the story about that.
Brandy old fashioned sweet.
Oh, right. CQ nap time.
Can you buy non 3.2 ABV beer in Wisconsin at a gas station?
You can't buy 3.2 in Wisconsin because no one will buy it.
The closest thing to that is O'Doul's.
Ooh. Ooh.
And that's only the old guys that can't drink alcohol anymore. So
Yeah. No, there is no 3-2 in Wisconsin. That's
Yeah.
a Minnesota thing. So that's not ham radio necessarily, but
no.
just a word just for your information, go on the other side of the Mississippi and get that stuff.
There you go. Go to the beer cave at your local Quick Trip. So.
Yeah.
And Alan says the 13 Colony event is going on now, so look for K2 stations. So
we were talking about that just before the show started.
Yep.
Last year, Michael almost had the clean sweep, except for the British station. He had 14 out of the 13 colonies.
Yeah.
And I was talking. So I said I was talking about tuning the vertical. And that's my goal. If I get that tuned and working this weekend, I'm going to hunt some colonies and see what I can do. Because
there you go.
The wife's going up to the cabin. I'm staying home with the dogs. Don't know how I pulled that off, but
and I'm heading down to Pewaukee and hang with the in-laws. So I think I'm going to be working. Portable that weekend. So
we'll see how. Yeah. Maybe in August, if I'm here, we'll tell you how we did on the 13 colonies.
There we go. So, well, I promised this at the beginning of the show. We were going to talk about field day and find out what everybody else's field day experience was. So.
Did you know that Noah from Noah's Ark was a ham? He came to help us this weekend.
Well, they say come hell or high water, and it was almost high water for us. There was a few other stations that had more rain than we did. I know there was a guy over in Green Bay that had 4.5 inches. So.
I think we had close to 3.
2.5 to 3, I think it was. Yeah.
A little bit to our south, they were over 3, so we were pretty close to that 3 range.
Yep.
Michael's last video was kind of sort of did it drop yet? I know you said that I was at a club member, so yeah, it dropped.
Yep, it dropped.
You can see at one point at the night that it just rained and rained and rained, and then at night it really started raining. And at one point there was standing water in the tent. So James, KD9OEO, was on a mission. He's kind of the youngest guy there. So somebody handed him a garden trowel.
Well, I did. He asked for a shovel. And I had a garden trowel in my camper.
So he started drinking the River James to drain it out. So Gary, W9CPY, it's not his church. He goes to that church. He lives like 2 minutes away. And he comes back with a shovel. So poor James is out his hands and knees trying to dig a trench.
Get the tent drained out.
But it did work. And then Sunday morning around 10 o'clock, the clouds disappeared and the sun came out. And I came home and my wife says, "Where have you been? You have a sunburn." It's been raining all weekend, honey. Those 2 hours that I was outside cleaning up, that's when I got my sunburn.
Sunburn. So Nick, he's just a little bit south of us in Stevens Point. They got 4 inches down there, and Point got it a lot harder than we did. So especially at night.
And to the south of us, I think in Crawford County, they got almost 15 inches in some spots. One flood death. It's scary. But that's the reason why we do field day is it is emergency communications exercise, and we got to be prepared for a situation like that. I can count on one hand and probably on the other one here, a couple fingers on the other one, how many times in the past 10 years that we've had situations in the state of Wisconsin where we've gotten 15 inches of rain somewhere. I'm not going to say climate change or anything, but it's almost getting to be a regular occurrence. Once a year, you have one of these big floods. So as Aries races individuals, we kind of have to start thinking about that. That you're gonna be dispatched somewhere where it's going to be wet. So take that into consideration, and make sure your tent doesn't have any holes, or if you do have a tent, keep a roll of duct tape handy.
Have the proper gear with you. Good rain jacket is worth its weight in gold. So Yeah. If anybody's got any field day experiences they want to share, leave them in the chat below. Otherwise, I got a few that came in yesterday. Joshua, KJ70EP. It was fun for a first field day. The best part was socializing, barbecuing, and being out with other hams. This last year has been a real downer. I didn't work many stations on 20 meters, but I did work was a challenge. It was wonderful having real world scenario where I needed to use my filters and narrow the bandwidth. To be honest, I wish I would have lasted longer. And I think, we all have that same kind of wish that field day was just going to last a little bit longer. So.
Right. We all know. Actually, by noon on Sunday, I'm ready for it to be done. My joke is, every year by noon on Sunday, I want to kill someone because I have little patience. I mean, I admit this. It's one of my faults. I don't have any patience. So by noon on Sunday, someone always gets on my nerves, and I'm usually pretty good. Just like walking away. Then I come home and I tell my wife, like, she goes, "Oh, why do you do it if you hate it so much?" I don't hate it so much. Someone always gets on my nerves.
Oh, I get home on Sunday and you look at the mess in the car and I just pull out the essentials and I just want to take a nap almost. So it just collapses.
I haven't cleaned my car out yet.
VA4CQD says that propagation seemed intermittent. He set up a POTA station, VE5465 at Tallgrass Prairie Preserve Natural Area. Very little luck on phone, 6 contacts, had better luck on data, 4 RIDI, and 114 PSK. And there was a severe thunderstorm cell move through the area around 6 Saturday. Otherwise, weather was sunny and 78. So...
It always seems we have we used to always seem that we had a storm.
Yeah.
On field day. It usually rolled in Saturday nights. In fact, one of your earliest videos shows the aftermath of that. Our field day setup got, just soaked. Like no one was paying attention to the radar. And all of a sudden, we didn't even have phones back then that, went off. And all of a sudden, we start getting the, severe thunderstorm warning, and next thing you know, we're drying out the radios.
Well, I'll tell you what happened there.
They're upside down. We got fans blowing on them. Trying to dry them out. And by Saturday or Sunday morning, they worked.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Well, what happened there? It was windy. It was windy all day long. So we had guide the tents into the leading edge of the wind to keep them down. And then when the thunderstorm came at like 10 o'clock at night, the outflow boundary shifted and everything just came up and under those tents and they flipped right over like a big hinge.
You got flanked.
You got flanked, absolutely. That was one of the worst ones. Yeah, talk about thunderstorms, because it was raining and lightning all over the place, and we're trying to throw tarps over radios, and we're trying to kill the generator, and we're trying to move cars so we got headlights and.
In the pouring rain, no less. In the pouring rain.
In the pouring rain, and we're trying to get everything electrical shut off. So
yeah, and you know what? All that equipment still works. We've been using it, 7 years now. It all works. So the answer is, yes, it can get waterlogged. Just shut it off as quick as possible. Dry it out.
Dry it out good. Yeah.
You didn't even have a bag of rice to put it in.
We put pointed fans on everything for a couple days. Conversely, Alan says, I had a great time visiting our club's field day. Beautiful weather in Southern California. It was my first field day, so I made a few contacts on the GOTA station. At Homes, I made a few contacts, but had learning to make sure to update the band on the logging program whenever you switch bands on the radio. I still do that.
Yeah.
I still do that.
So yeah, but that's the thing though. So even though that it was miserable weather, we all had a great time. Because we didn't have a field day last year. There's some guys I haven't seen like a year, 2 years almost. one guy came in, I haven't seen him forever. He's like, "Oh yeah, I have leukemia. When did you get leukemia?" Well, like a year ago. So that's the thing. You see all your good friends again.
Mhm.
You pick up where you left off. You make some contacts. Our club is a little more, casual. We have a good time. But that's the thing about field day is that you kind of walk in and everyone either you know what you're doing or you don't know what you're doing, and if you don't know
Mhm.
what you're doing, by the time you're done, you know what you're doing. So
Yeah, and I think our contact count is never very high, and I think we had less than 100 contacts this year,
yeah,
but we had all of the new guys on the radios
Saturday
for
night, yeah,
for much of Saturday and into Saturday night,
and they
and
were
I don't.
hitting hard, yeah.
Yeah, so they may not have had the skill to to hold a frequency and call CQ, but they sure they spent a lot of time hunting and pouncing, and
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah, no, and that's the thing too is that you're getting
mhm.
people who don't get a chance to get on the air out there, and they're making contacts, and that's great. I love it.
Yeah, so and yeah, Nick, we've got a couple questions that showed up in the chat here. So honestly, the best real life training event, tested antennas and had a great time.
Yep.
And yeah, it doesn't get any more real life than that. So, and Frank comments, yeah, the guy who runs the YouTube channel Outdoors on the Air said that there was a tornado near his location. I think I watched that video when I was eating lunch today. So he had check out, yeah, Outdoors on the Air is the channel. Check out his field day video. It's a good one.
All right,
So
yeah, check that out.
yeah, he did QRP with the Nikon 703. So
And a tornado.
among other things, yeah.
At the end.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to move on to questions. I see here Kate Ensman asks a question. What's the difference between horizontal and vertical antennas? Thanks in advance. Yeah, the short answer would be that. Polarization.
Vertical.
So
yeah.
Typically a horizontal antenna, the signal is horizontally polarized, and a vertical antenna might be, would be vertically polarized.
Mhm.
On the HF bands, that does not make a whole lot of a difference because, when you get the skip, you're going to have signal mixing anyway. Vertical antennas, though, on HF tend to have a lot lower takeoff angles, so you can might be a better choice for DX. On VHF, UHF, of course, polarization is everything because your contacts are point-to-point line of sight. So you want to try to match the polarization of the receiving antenna as the transmitting one. Otherwise, you're going to have up to a 20 dB loss between the two stations, depending on how far away they are.
You see all those cop shows on TV when they talk into the radio like this? That's a dumb idea. It really is.
Yep.
It's like holding a gun like this. It's like you're an idiot.
But I think that's probably the biggest difference is the with the orientation of the antenna is the polarization. So
right. And like
you could take
once your signal skips once off the ionosphere, polarization doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, got another question here. And this is a good one. This is a Parks on the Air question, and then we'll get into somebody's asking about.
I like this one.
Yeah. So I got a question here. Parks on the Air. A friend and I went out to do a POTA at the Northern Highland American Legion State Forest with the coordinates given on the POTA site, which is just north of Pickerel Lake in the middle of nowhere. A road leading to the coordinates was blocked off by DNR gates, which were locked. Were the coordinates given were activating, or were the coordinates given where you were activating, or was it another location? If so, what was the location? If we were to activate that area, can we be anywhere within the above listed state forest, or does it need to be at or very near the given coordinates? And that's a really good question. I see that question come up a lot. on in the forums and the pages. And just for a little bit of context, the Northern Highlands American Legion State Forest is thousands of acres spread over several counties in northern Wisconsin. So it's a big spot. And when they pin the maps on the Parks on the Air website for the locations, they're just either pinning it near the center of the park or a non-specific location in the park, and you do not have to operate at the pinpoint. In fact, the pinpoint really means nothing other than a general area of where the park is. So if you want to activate, and I've activated the Northern Highlands State Forest twice now. And once I did it at the South Trout Lake Campground, which is near Woodruff. And then I did another time near way on the end on just past, I think it was even just, I don't even think I was in Vilas County anymore. On the far western edge of the state forest, I found a trailhead, a parking lot and a trailhead that on the maps listed it within the bounds of the state forest, but it was way on the edge, and but you were still within the confines of the forest. So, long story short is get a map of the area, the DNR or the parks, whoever's if you're in a different state, whoever's the conservation group that's managing the parks will have accurate maps of the boundaries, and you can use those to figure out where the park or the forest starts and ends. And you can also use that to find parking areas or other areas that you can set up and activate. So
right. So I love the remote ones. I know there's like the ones the ones I love are like the ones where I can just like be alone. There's no one comes around there. So look, a lot of times these wildlife areas, and a lot of times they're not even a park, they're just like a wildlife area. Drive around, you find a small parking area. It just maybe gravel. You have that. Nice, flat, usually dry. You can set up there real quick. You can make your 10 contacts and move on along. But long as you're within the boundaries of the park or the entity, you're legal. So,
yep.
That means you got to go on the remote side, and you just find a little spot off in the middle of nowhere. That's legit. As long as you're on the property, you're good.
Yep. Get yourself a map from the Natural Resources Group or a DeLorme Gazetteer. You should keep one. If you're going to be doing these kind of things, you should keep one of those in your car because they will have map boundaries in for most of the parks and forests and wildlife areas. So you can use that to kind of figure out, and it has all their little roads, so you can figure out where a parking area is and if it's within the boundaries of the forest itself.
Exactly. Yeah. It really you can do, as long as you're on that property or on their land, that's fine. Whatever works best for you. And like I said, I like to go in the remote places, the people where there's not a lot of people. It's quiet. You have very low noise floor. So you're not going to have a lot of interference. You just have a good time. And then when you're done, set up, move off.
And nobody's going to bother you if you're in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Exactly.
So, a couple of places I like to find, sometimes if you're having a hard time finding a spot, boat landings are usually they're good open areas, trailheads. A lot of times I'll do campgrounds if I'm spending a weekend there. Usually, then I've seldom have had noise floor issues at a campground.
Or the road ranger coming around and ask you what the heck you're doing.
Well, as long as you're at your campsite, they never care. So, and they're not gonna. Yeah, and I don't think I've ever been bothered by a conservation warden once at a boat landing or somewhere in a wildlife area.
I don't think I've ever been bothered, really.
No, usually not.
No.
Sometimes somebody will ask you what you're doing, and then you got to kind of explain. But other than that,
hat off, set it down.
I like to take satellite. I like the Google Earth satellite. And if I'm trying to find a spot ahead of time, I'll use that to look for parking areas. and
Yep.
and open spots. So
A nice dirt road going like down the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
That's great. That like when I see that on a POTA activation, I just go down that road. I don't care where it goes. I just keep looking for like the state-owned land signs.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as I see a little parking area, that's where I pull in. Like that's perfect. That's a prime spot. And then I have a little GPS, handheld GPS, and I actually put that in there. So future reference.
Yeah. So, and somebody said, I just D3 Jake says, I attempted to activate St. Croix State Park a short while ago. Couldn't get out on voice, but noticed an obnoxious noise floor on 40 meters. Are RV electronics known for spewing RFI?
Oh, I bet
They can
are.
be.
Yeah.
If they got solar power, there's a possibility there. If they're running inverters,
Yep.
that could
Or they
that
have
could cause.
plasma TVs in them, like most RVs do nowadays.
Yeah, that would be if they're at an electric site. So
Or they have LED Christmas lights all around the place. Yeah, it's real. Definitely a possibility that it could be from RVs, or if they have LED lights outside, the campground lights, anything. Again, that's why, like when I do POTA activations, I aim for the middle of nowhere, because that you don't have any of those problems.
Yep. So
Then you get those ice contacts where you may be a 4-3 or 4-4, but you still get to log it. You know.
Mm-hmm. I think the best noise floor I had was when we were out in the UP at that Pictured Lakes National Park or National Lakeshore, because there was nothing, no electricity, nothing. So it's and it was pretty remote.
Was ever activated?
It was active. Actually, that one's been activated quite a few times.
Okay.
It's a popular campground, but there's no big RVs in there, so it's
That's nice. And just again, the whole thing about it is getting outside, getting away from the everyday stuff, and that's what I love most about the whole program.
Absolutely. So, I got a couple here. We were going to go back to polarization. TNCT says circular polarization. Please explain.
Vertical, horizontal, circular. So circular polarization is mainly used for antennas for satellites, because the satellites, as they're going around the Earth, they are actually kind of tumbling, and that's a known fact. And a polarization circular, and if you look at some of these helical antennas, that actually it kind of looks like, you remember MASH? When they went into the swamp tent and they had the still, they had the cooling coil.
The spiral coil,
yeah, that's what a circular polarized antenna kind of looks like. It's a big coil, and because now that changes the pattern of how the waves are come from the antenna, and that matches the spinning of the satellite. Right? It matches it better. It's not a perfect match. But so the satellite guys use those types of antennas to make better contacts. It helps a little bit with the fading that you'll notice if you're just using a regular horizontal Yagi, like a handheld arrow antenna. So as that slowly spins, that circular polarization helps with the fading.
A lot of times, circular polarized antennas will actually be cross-polarized. So they're two different phases. One half of your signal is going at vertical, and then the other half is horizontal. And that mixing will circularly polarize the signal too. Actually, FM broadcast transmitters are cross-phased. So they'll split their, because some, like car radios might use a vertical polarized antenna, whereas house radios might use a horizontally polarized one. So they cross phase that signel.
And they're running enough power that they can split it and do it just.
And they can split it, yeah. So absolutely. Let's see. We got a couple more here as we'll start to kind of wrap things up.
Don't forget my rant.
Oh, yep. We're gonna do these two questions, and then we'll let you rant. So,
all right.
A newly upgraded general license. What is the best multi-band HF antenna for constrained space in a housing edition? I don't have an HOA, just a lot of trees that I don't own.
Oh.
Probably, I'd think of and we've kind of pointed people this way before too. Is vertical antennas? A portable vertical antenna like the, we'll say it again, the Wolf River Coil or because you can, it's easily.
Yeah, Chameleon Empass, any of these verticals that are made for portable use would be just fine. You can find like the butternuts. Diamond makes the BB7V. There's a whole bunch of vertical antennas that you can get out there that don't require a tower, don't require a lot of guying. They will go just straight up.
Yep.
And those are good. Otherwise, you're looking at maybe a wire antenna. You said most trees you don't own, so that's kind of a problem. But a wire antenna or a sloper antenna.
Sloper might work. Yeah, if you can put up a mast, say like 25 feet, and then slope down to the ground. 4310 is not a unusually large antenna. So
maybe 40 feet. 45 feet right to that neck of the woods. Or end-fed half wave would be about.
End-fed half wave will be about 65, 66 feet. Yeah. But since it's like a triangle, it's really, that's your hypotenuse. So it'd really only be about 45 feet. So.
Right. So
of the horizontal space out. So
the thing I always recommend, if you're really looking for good ideas, the ARRL and antenna handbook. Just start flipping through the pages till you see something that fits.
There you go. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, G3 Jake says, the DX Commander is popular. That's a vertical antenna, multi-band vertical. Takes a lot of radials, so that might be a constraining factor. But and then finally, Robert asks, what's a better choice for multi-band antenna, off-center fed dipole or G5RV? Yeah, G5RV. That's are a little. I run a G5RV at my house because it fits my property very well. They are a particular antenna, so there's a couple things you just need to be cognizant of when you're installing it to make sure that
you got to have it 40 feet in the air.
Yeah, 30. Yeah, at least 30, 35 feet, 40 feet. The ladder line can't touch anything. It's so, but a ladder line does not have to drape all the way down. It can be at an angle. That'll work fine. But just as long as it's not touching your house or the ground or things like that. And you need a tuner with the G5RV, a wide-ranging tuner, an internal tuner in your transceiver. Probably not with a G5RV, but an external tuner all day long.
Right.
Off-center fed dipoles, typically, they're a little bit more forgiving. They're because they use that 4-to-1 balun. Your impedance should be closer to 50 ohms.
An internal tuner will handle it.
An internal tuner will handle an off-center fed dipole. So, long story short, if you've got if you've got an internal tuner in your rig and you don't want to go the external tuner route, then I would look at off-center fed dipole over G5RV.
Yeah.
So,
but the G5RV probably going to be a little bit more of a performer. I'll say that. I mean, it's a 70-year-old design and it still works great.
So. I've had great luck with it, especially on 40 and 80 meters. The guys on 80 meters wonder, why you sound so good. Well, I got a G5RV. No, you can't have a G5RV. You sound too good for a G5RV. So
tell them you're also running 5 watts and see what they
say. Mike asks, what should I look for or avoid when buying my first soldering station? Been a ham for a few months, and I'm looking to try building some antennas.
Well, if you're building antennas, get a big old 100-watt Weller soldering gun. You'll need that. But if you want a solder station for electronics, stay away from the sticks, the 40-watt soldering irons, and get a good adjustable temperature. Heiko is a good one.
Heikos are good. Yep.
Heikos. I have a Heiko that I love. It's like I never was able to solder very good, and I got this thing, and like, oh my god, it's amazing. For $100 you can get a little soldering station with a temperature, and that's just the way to go.
I got the Weller, the WES50. I think this one, I've had this one so long it was actually made in the USA yet. So
You said that one
Stepping-
so long, it was from one of the original 13 colonies.
Not that old.
Yeah. But Weller and Heiko are great models.
Yeah.
For 100, 120 bucks, you can get a really good soldering iron. But if you're building antennas, you're going to want the big power 100, 140 watt Weller soldering gun.
Get one of those guns.
It takes that much more heat to actually get those up to temp for the solder to mount. So.
And those guns are great for putting on PL 259s and things like that because they put a lot of heat there, and they're relatively inexpensive. So all right, let's finish up here because we are over time by a couple minutes. But just want to remind everybody, we got coming up. I've got some good slate of videos planned in July. So keep watching the channel for those. We're going to have a couple Parks on the Air activations. We're going to do a joint activation with good friend Dave, KZ9W, out from the Eau Claire area. So we'll be doing that. Hopefully we'll have that video up by the end of the month because we're going to be meeting later in July. I got another video, field day video I'll be sharing, and that's from our educational activity. So we'll see that next week.
Oh, who did the educational activity?
I don't know. It's a good one. It was a really interesting activity. So
if you're looking for the individual who asked about is very not a lot of real estate in the backyard and they want to put up antenna, this may be something you want to watch. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Not that I've seen it or I know what's about. I'm just saying.
So watch for those. To drop in the coming weeks. And I got a backlog from June. I'm still working through, but we got a lot of good content coming up. So thanks everybody for watching. And but before we go, stick around for this because something is grinding your gears, Joe. Now, isn't it?
What really grinds my gears, Michael? Ham radio outlets.
Oh,
yeah, those guys.
Oh.
So I leave work today, and as I normally do, I call my wife. Tell her I'm on my way home. I survived another day. Don't cash in that life insurance policy just yet. And she's on speakerphone with my daughter in the car, and my daughter goes, "You got a package." I got a package.
Oh.
It came from the antenna store. It looks expensive. Oh. So
did the package have dollar signs on it?
Well, I mean, because come on, guys. Come on, look at this. Oh, look at all that advertising that HRO puts on the side of the boxes for Diamond, right? I will pay you an extra $5 if you can deliver it in a very discreet package, HRO. Really? I'll pay you $20 if my wife doesn't see it.
Maybe they could print adult diapers on it or something.
Exactly. I don't know. Put something on it like bills. Or don't put junk. No, don't put bills. They may get thrown away too. Hey, don't put fancy antenna on here because then daughter goes, "Hey, I got the mail. Daddy got something." My wife goes, "Well, that looks very expensive. How much did you spend there?" And I said, $30. That's not expensive. It was $30. Maybe 34 with shipping. $37.99. Okay, maybe 40. But still, not expensive. Not too bad. Don't jump down to me because HRO put something on it that makes it look like it's expensive. And Ray, I'll pay you $5 more if you put it in a discreet package. Or say, put out a gift. Better yet, here we go. Michael, huge cross advertising here. HRO just put on the package a gift from KB9 VBR.
Oh, there you go.
Solution. And with that, Andrea, I'm done.
Well, they get they put advertising on that tape because Diamond paid for it, so they're cheaping out. Yeah,
sure. So they get free tape. Really, HRO. You're selling yourselves out. You're whoring yourselves out for free tape. Come on, guys.
Oh.
Think about your customers. Now she's going to ask me how much I paid for the beer. I'm done.
Of course.
I'm for
You're
July.
done.
All my overtime coming up this month, gone. I spent $40 on HRO.
No.
I'm done.
There you go. We're gonna
But
have to make
knowing
this.
you guys.
We're gonna have to make this a regular feature, I guess. So.
Oh, I got lots of things grinding my gears. I can tell you.
Oh man. Oh man. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in this month. Our next live stream will be on Thursday, August 5th at 7:00 p.m. So mark your calendars because we want you to share the date with us and have a great time. So with that, I'm Michael, KB9VBR.
And I'm Joe, KD9CJX.
73.
Have a good night.